All right, so we've started. Apologies to every single one of us here for starting out late. It's not in our habit to kick off late. More Life Poetry, in fact, Port Harcourt Poetry Festival 2023 identifies with punctuality. Okay, all of these are based off technical issues that were beyond our control. Please, we apologize. Thank you very much. And we're starting. I have an interesting person that I will be speaking with. So many interesting people, actually. Let me not give you the numbers, but I have with me Sir Deinbofa Ere. Please, can we have you, sir? Please put your hands together. Put your hands together. No, he says don't clap, but clap actually. Clap, please. Clap. Thank you. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome. It's good to have you. So we had a little chit chat at the back. Not enough words to qualify as a chit chat, but I asked a little question. Right. And he is a poet and a filmmaker. But I would let him, speak and introduce himself more to you guys. Okay, please, sir. Have the mic.
Does it work?
Yeah, it does.
All right. Okay. My name is Deinbofa Ere. I live in Port Harcourt. Occasionally, I'll make a film, and I would write poetry, and maybe write a novel, or maybe write a play. That's about it. And I am hoping that today you are going to ask every question that you have always wanted to ask. I'll read you a couple of poems, and I'm going to hopefully ask any of you whether you understand what freedom is. So shall we spend this afternoon?
Of course.
Just wondering what freedom is. I'll read a couple of poems, then that will give you enough time to understand what freedom means.
What freedom means. Okay, I like the sound of that. But before we go into the reading of the poem, I think it's important that we get to know the writer of the poem, and we want to understand your creative process. Right. Is there anything you can say about that? Yes, please.
I think there's no universality to creativity because our voices are different. Our voices are different. So we should never, ever belittle our own individual voice. And I went to secondary school in Port Harcourt called Government Comprehensive Secondary School, and I left a very long time ago. And when I left, I had this big volume of work that I'd written. And all the writers that I admired, one early morning, years afterwards, I think, I don't know where I was, but I wasn't in Nigeria. I don't know exactly where. And I read this stuff. And I realized, and it was during the winter, so there was a small fire going in where I lived, a little fire, to warm the room. And I realized that I was reading a pastiche of these writers that I admired. So I burned 15 years of work. Just took it. As I was reading it, I was throwing it into the fire. Not because they have no value, but because my voice was missing. I was shouting, I was crying, I was singing, and I was speaking in somebody else's voice.
Wow. Okay, so which means there was a point where there was the process of knowing that I am not here, and then eventually realizing. So was that where you started another journey of writing?
I don't know what happened that day. All I know is that I wish I could tell you, oh, it's such this great rebirth, a new person was born, or maybe I burned really, really significant work. Maybe I didn't. But let me just tell you a small story about a Japanese practice where they build this great temple, set in part of Shinto, and they build this fantastic place, and they are there, and it's venerated. Then one day, everybody gets out of the place and they burn it down, right? And to start all over again. Or somebody wears the most fantastic kimono. I don't know whether you know kimono, it's a dress. And it's gray outside, and inside it are the most intrinsic, really, really, really beautiful, intricate designs. And then you ask the person, why are you hiding all that beauty inside? And their worldview is that quality is so intrinsic, it gives them freedom. I don't know how best I can relate that, you know. Now, what I am saying is that I wasn't afraid of my own voice anymore. Okay. So if there was any fear, whatever I expressed before that day was the fear of my own voice. And my voice is as a result of the environment, as a result of the way I was born, and it was as a result of my nurturing and my nature. And that voice, irrespective of whether it is loud and is standing on top of a mountain and screaming, or whether it's a whimper, it is that voice. Do you understand? It has its own timbre. The timbre I mean is Timbre, not a piece of wood. So that is what I mean.
Yes. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him, please. So, sir, can we get? You said you were going to read us some of your works.
I am going to read a couple of poems.
Okay.
While I was sitting down there, this was going way back. I was just thinking about women. Here it goes. It says, tie her womb to the kitchen sink. Cement her place. Blow all the old lies into a new voice. I marry a woman, keep for house, you say. Why should I bark when I own a dog? Cook, children. Madam, no day. Where shall it be on Sunday, our uniform or our mask? Don't you know that happy home rocks on love? Bleat, brother, bleat. Your kind do. That's it.
Wow. That's an interesting piece. I hope we're keeping our questions ready. I hope we're putting together questions we want to ask him about freedom, because the first story he told us about burning up works, that has to be the height of expressing a certain level of freedom. So please, hope we're keeping our freedoms together. So you want to tell us about this? You want to tell us about this piece?
Okay, yeah. This one is trying to. Again, it's quite an old one because I'm putting together for the first time in my life, seriously putting together an anthology. So I'm kind of extracting poems from.
A round of applause to that, please.
I am not making a promise, bro. I say I'm trying, and hopefully one day I will.
Yes,
I will. And it was about a love story. Again, I don't know what's happening today, but hey, why not? And I said to her, I really said this to this girl, and I said to her that, and this is how I think this poem needs to be accessible, so that there isn't any hyperbole. You aren't dealing with complex emotions. It's just straightforward, straight to the point. And I like it for that. No need to love me yet. She needs to love herself. To play the music that left traces of a time when everything was true. When love made some days slow and others swift. When nothing languished in the wave, in the myth, everything was sure, not rolled dice. Her scars healed slowly, calling on every hurt like a station on the metro. She needs to love herself real bad. Me, I'm the Eden at the end of the metro line.
That's it. Let's please. I feel like there's one question people, whether poets or non-poets. I feel like there's one question where that poets and non-poets try to find out from themselves, try to find out from poets, and that would be what was your place, what place of mind were you at when you wrote this particular piece?
Oh, this
Your
one I just
response,
read.
yes.
Okay. Nobody should love a broken soul. If the girl or the guy is unhappy, is profoundly broken herself, you are trying to fix China. Nobody is perfectly happy. No. But if there is a profound brokenness there, you are dealing with old trauma. And if you're going to be there knowing that you want to either be part of the healing process, we're certainly not going to exacerbate it. So in the context of this poem, that is what I'm trying to say. That look, babe, you don't need to, how do we say it now? Bar break there,
Exactly.
You don't need to love me yet, but you need to love yourself first. That way I'm dealing with a whole person. Until then, you're dealing with just maybe little fragments of what the magic that person could be. Because human beings in a relationship, whether it's platonic or not, whether it's sexual or not, can and are magical.
I like that. I like the sound of that. Okay, we have barely 5 minutes to take questions. And he said you should ask him and let's talk about this thing called freedom. Okay, so your questions, please. Yes, please.
Do I need to? Okay. So you said in the first poem. Okay. In the first poem you wrote, you recited, there was one line you said, "Madame no dey." Something like that has this weight it puts on women. Like there's this expectation that comes with, Madame no dey. There's something to be said, like the woman needs to do something. Yeah. I feel like while yes there is some gender there's an expectation coming from that gender, also it doesn't feel very freeing of having all of those Madame no dey to watch the children or to cook as all of that.
Okay.
I think that as a society, we are hurting ourselves. We may be thinking that we are hurting the female part of us, but we are not really. We are tearing us apart. For the very simple reason, you would think modernity has brought a new freedom to women. I am not by any means a feminist, but I also know that anybody that doesn't recognize the absolute billions of stars in another person just waiting to explode and become magical, and they feel that that person is a childbearing entity, it's a factory, and it's there for a specific defined purpose, and that from the beginning of their maturity or puberty to the end of their time is dedicated entirely to being this. If it's by choice, hey, this is not what I'm talking about here. I am talking about expectation and burden, and whether that is explicit or implicit is left for anybody to decide. But at the point in which that thought was crystallized into paper or the poem was written, I was filled with rage that somebody felt that a beautiful, magical human being, a womb, is somehow tied to the kitchen sink, and that is where she belongs. And that, first of all, pissed me off as an individual, as a human being, not necessarily as a male who is an actual beneficiary of that person being in that place in society.
Round of applause for him for that, please. Any more questions? Any more questions? And then we'll call it a wrap for our session with Sir Eric, please.
Okay, just before I go,
Okay.
for this session, I need to tell you a small story. Believe me, I don't talk a lot, but today I'm in the mood, so let me tell you the story.
You.
Around here, on the last time I was here, was a guy, somebody I know. a friend of mine, an older friend of mine. Now, the guy was here with his friend. He was a bit frail, and we had a conversation, and he left. Now, fast forward 3 weeks later, no, about a month later, another friend of mine called me on the phone. No, on WhatsApp. He lives in Tenerife, in Spain. And all have known him all his life. I mean, if he comes in here, you may have a little bit of, you'll be reticent if you look at him. He wears his hair, I'm going to try and describe it as best as I can. It's all shaved, and there's a small tuft of hair, just a tiny, like a Mohican, right here. And he's worn his hair like that all his life. Well, all the 30 years that I've known him. And he said to me that he went to Africa. He's never been to, well, he's been to Africa on tour as a musician, but he went to Africa and he came to this tribe. And that tribe, the men of that tribe wore their hair like that. And he asked one of them that, why do you guys wear your hair like that? And the person that he asked the question just looked at him as if, are you insane? This is norm. And their own version of God, the way he saw it, or the way it was explained to him, that when their time comes, their own version of God will put their hand from the earth and just grab them by the tuft of their hair and take them away. So they had that absolute freedom of belief that as long as they have that tuft of hair on their head. Now, what has that got to do with my friend? My friend now walks past here, and I'm sitting down there with my guys, and we were chatting. And I celebrate that friend today because he is no longer here, right? He's a friend of this gallery, and he comes here and buys work. But he's no longer with us. Because in my own absolute sense of freedom, I equate him with a regular Port Harcourt bon vivant. A bon vivant is somebody that enjoys booze and women. He was a fantastic guy. Now, I pray for him that he will have the kind of freedom that my other friend in Tenerife, who has a tuft of hair on his head, that he would not feel the pain when he passed away a week ago, when whoever put their hand down and grabbed him by the tuft of the head and said, your time here is done. So that is what I understand as freedom. I could have cried for my friend who was here 3 weeks ago. I don't want to call his name because maybe I would, but because I understood these two almost juxtaposing positions, I realized that why one guy had absolute freedom and he's had that for 30 years, waiting for the time when he will be pulled. And this other guy fought like hell, went to South Africa, and I'm sure they stuffed him full of chemicals just to save his life. And he didn't make it. But yet he's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. That is what I meant when I said freedom.
Freedom. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Sir Deinbofa Ere. Thank you very much. Thank you.